Okay, so I'm here with Tom Taylor, a teacher at Fall Creek Valley.
Hello.
Will you tell us about your personal experience as a teacher and a coach?
I've been teaching for about 18 years. Before that, I was in management and sales, and I also coached baseball for about 20 years, 21 years before I started teaching. So I've taught and coached at the high school level and the middle school level. And I'm a teacher of pre-AP U.S. history and law education currently.
Okay. What did you coach?
Baseball.
Did you
Coached baseball.
did you play baseball as
I
well?
did. I played baseball and football in high school.
Yeah. So I'm here to interview about trauma. It's
Okay.
defined as a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. I've been researching it with my group members. So we're researching about students. So what percentage of students do you believe have been affected by trauma at
I
this school?
think that's a good question. I bet I don't know everybody that is, but I usually have typically one or two. So I would put it at about 5%, maybe like one or two per class. So maybe in the 5%, but I bet it's an underreported statistic. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there may be people out there that have trauma that I'm not aware of. So if I had to guess, I'd say 5%.
Would you be surprised if it was more like 1 in 3, so
I
33?
really wouldn't because kind of like sexual assault, they say about 1 in 10 people actually ever report that.
Hmm.
So it's still a big number, and yet 90% of the people never reported it. So, for example, I think it could be a highly unreported, under-known statistic.
Hmm. So how do you as a teacher prepare for working with students who have faced trauma?
Well, the best thing for me is if when we have that team approach. So, for example, let's say the social worker, one of the administrators, perhaps our Gallahue person, if we can all find the time to get together and find out about it. Some of the things that block that are confidentiality issues and so forth. So, for example, some of the students that go to our Gallahue person, she can't reveal because it's a therapy situation, she can't reveal. So I think we work best when we have that team approach where everybody gets a chance to kind of know and we're on the same page.
Do you have trouble like forming relationships with students that you know have faced trauma? Or...
No, I think that's one thing I'm good at is forming relationships, and um, I do try to be aware of that and try to kind of work with that. So I think that's not a problem. Although some of it, I will be honest, it just makes me sad or sick to know that some of our kids, like one girl, experienced something really truly horrific at the hands of her mom, and it just makes me sad that a 14-year-old girl has to deal with that.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges as
It really
teachers.
is.
What kind of trainings have you participated in?
Well, I've done a lot of trainings, but none that I would say are specifically trauma related. As a matter of fact, I'd say the last kind of trauma or issues related like that was probably at my undergraduate level.
Oh, okay.
Most of our professional development is geared towards our content or to a skill, and maybe that's something we're missing. Maybe there should be some specific trauma issues. I know they have a bereavement group here, so I know there's a lot of resources at Fall Creek Valley. So if a kid has a death, they can go to bereavement. They have Gallahue. We have a social worker. We have a nurse. We have the counselors, the administrators, who are all willing to help. But I don't know that maybe that's something missing. Like the staff could use like some specific and direct PD on trauma.
Hmm. So I actually have a student in bereavement. I didn't know that's what
I
it
do
was
too.
called. So can you like elaborate more on that
Well, the
process? Or...
student I'm thinking of, and perhaps we're sharing the same young man, lost his father very early in the year,
Mhm.
and so he's going to bereavement. One of our counselors, Mr. Pierce, set that group up, and they meet periodically and discuss how they're coping with the loss of someone close to them.
So it's just like a small group?
It's a
Or...
small group,
Okay.
correct?
So I know you listed a couple of the resources at Fall Creek Valley. Can you think of any other ones besides Gallahue?
There's so many that I'm really interested in, and also sometimes they'll bring in students from the high school level at times in the past have worked with students about positive relationships and developing that kind of that aspect, as they go through their life and they make decisions about dating and alcohol use and drug use. So sometimes that peer level of
Hmm.
students that are just a little bit older is sometimes effective too.
Okay, I've never thought of that one. So, how are you personally influenced by the trauma of your students? I know you said it
Yeah,
makes you feel
it,
sick,
it
and
makes me feel sad and it also makes me feel aware that, more aware of certain things. Like, for example, I had a girl that was traumatized sexually that I want to make sure that I don't approach her too closely because she might have a thing about guys being around her and so forth.
hmm.
I've got girls that would have been in a bad situation as well. So I tried to address it. But I thought about when I read that question, I want to be sensitive to it and be helpful with them. At the same time, I'm preparing students for an AP level class at the next level. So if you understand what I'm saying, although I want to be sensitive and helpful, I also have to keep the expectations high for all of my students. So I don't know if there's a way of balancing that out, but that's kind of what I thought about that.
So do you still try to keep high expectations for all
I
students, or?
do. I do because I think when I first started teaching, I gave a lot of positive feedback to students all the time. And now I give more, I would say, positive but directed feedback. So, for example, you use good adjectives on that writing prompt. However, you didn't address the writing prompt and you need to work on those kind of things. So, more constructive criticism, but in a friendly way.
Mhm.
Whereas in the past, I was always, oh, you did a great job, or I think we rewarded too much without some basis of fact.
Mhm.
So that's kind of that made me think about.
Well, thank you for sharing with all of us because this is going to be a
You're very
podcast.
welcome.
So.
All right. Thank you.